Welcome to Spicer and Company. I'm Sean Spicer.
And I'm Lindsay Keith. Well, Sean, have you seen the most recent artwork from Governor Cuomo? I mean, he created a celebratory poster to honor his accomplishments and the way he handled COVID-19. I mean, you got to hand it to the guy. You have to have a lot of guts to praise yourself when your state has the worst record in the country for the cases of deaths, for case count and for deaths. I mean, talk about a convoluted victory lap. This is crazy.
I know. You make a poster of yourself. By the way, it's what? I think it's $11.50. It doesn't acknowledge more than the 32,000 people that have died in New York, which, by the way, Lindsay, is the highest in the country. I mean, he's giving himself a poster for placing 50 out of 50. I mean, this is worse than, everybody gets a participation trophy. You don't get to give yourself an award when you're in last place. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's actually really crazy that he would think that this was going to go over well. I mean, I'm just thinking of the families who have lost loved ones to COVID-19. Are they out there first in line to get this poster? It's really tone deaf for someone to be praising themselves for something like this. And I mean, a poster of all means, he has his daughter on there, the boyfriend. It's crazy.
Lindsay, the thing that's weird is it's one thing, obviously, you and I have talked a lot about how he hasn't done a good job and other folks haven't. But you got to check this out. Even the left has started to pile on. His love fest folks, friends over there at CNN went after him. Listen to what Jake Tapper had to say.
No rendering on that poster of criticism that Governor Cuomo ignored warnings, no depiction of the study that he could have saved thousands of lives had he and Mayor de Blasio acted sooner, no painting there on the poster of his since rescinded order that nursing homes take all infected patients in.
The poster's called New York Tough, right? You can see it on your screen right now. The design is intended to capture the nightmare that this pandemic became, right? I think it's like supposed to be Death Mountain. I mean, take a look at this whole thing. On the left is the mountain here, and it's an airplane depicting the incoming coronavirus with the words January to March on the belly of it. And COVID-19's on the right with the wing where it says Europeans on its left. It's flying through the clouds, and it says White House task force fed of confusion. I mean, really, there's more, though. I mean, it's almost, you got to believe that all the stuff that was thrown at this artist whenever they did it, on the mid-right, just under President Trump, sitting on a moon with the words, quote, "It's just a flu," are Cuomo's 3 children with healthcare workers attempting to scale down the pandemic. I mean, it's supposed to be sweet, I guess. But Cuomo then heroically quotes himself and places his image along with the task force in the bottom center of the poster, just above the words love, support, and community. Now, keep in mind, this is the same Governor Cuomo who's patting himself on the back that after 32,000 citizens in New York died from the virus in New York alone. And if that's not enough, for just $11.50, this 22 by 28 poster can be all yours. That does include, Lindsay, in case you were wondering, shipping and handling. It's not signed, though. Those are probably a lot more. But let's remember, this is the same Governor Cuomo, the same person that mocked President Trump's COVID-19 briefings and called him a comedy skit during his own COVID conference that the nation doesn't have and he said, remember this, the nation doesn't have a king and it doesn't want a king. But this design surely comes across as like royal posturing. But seriously, it's revisionism of the pandemic in New York. It's the one thing I probably agree with the folks on CNN about. Well, so let's continue this conversation with one of the royal king's subjects, New York Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin. I don't know if you're knighted yet, Congressman, but it must give you such homage. First thing that's probably on everyone's mind, do you have a copy of the poster yet?
Unfortunately, I haven't received a copy of the poster. Must have got lost in the mail. I don't know how many were printed. And I would say, to add one other point to what you were just talking about, is art numbers, especially in downstate New York, weren't just the worst numbers in the country. We actually had the worst numbers on the planet. I mean, we got hit so hard downstate New York, and the president, to myself and others, the local elected officials, we all approach this with the mentality that regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat, conservative, liberal, no matter what level of office you're in, let's all work together. And I got to say, the federal government was fantastic through this process in getting approvals on things and resources. We saw the The Comfort come in, the Javits get set up, field hospitals get set up, thousands of ventilators, public lab testing, private lab testing, semi-automated testing, boom, boom, boom. These approvals were coming in. And it was really unfortunate when the governor, who at the beginning was, I think, communicating to the state and really to many others in the country pretty well with some important points, it started to turn into a show, the daily press briefing, and things started to turn. And you mentioned a nursing home policy as well.
Do you think, in TV world, there's a phrase called jump the shark. Do you think that the governor jumped the shark? I mean, I don't mean to, the poster deserves mocking, but it's a very serious subject, as you point out, between the nursing homes and the number of deaths. I hate to make light of it, but my goodness, I mean, the idea that you put a poster out with yourself, your kids, and then try to mock the president at the same time after you've mocked him, I just, I really think this is like the political equivalent of jumping the shark.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like a moment. I know that President Bush still hears about when he gave that speech from the aircraft carrier with the sign behind him that said "Mission Accomplished." At the start of this pandemic, some of these other states in the country and in the region, by the way, some of these were other elected officials were Democrats. They were concerned about travel from the New York area to their states, and they wanted to take action. The governor's position was that that would be an act of war against New York. And then New York's numbers come down. You see some of the numbers increasing in some of these other states. And now the governor is putting travel restrictions on most of the rest of the country now. But this is where it could come back and bite New Yorkers. What happens as those other states start controlling their numbers? And let's say, God forbid, New York's numbers start going up. We're all in this together. I understand there's high stakes. There's a presidential election going on. There is a lot at stake this November. But we are best served as Americans, as New Yorkers, when our elected officials are working together, put aside, the fancy artwork, the cute attacks or the highly hyper-partisan attacks. Just focus on getting the job done. That's all I think New Yorkers really want right now.
I don't mean to get hung up on this poster, but you mentioned the comfort. And I remember what a big deal it was for the comfort to get there, right? First, people like Rachel Maddow doubted it could ever happen. Then it came in. And these men and women in the military came to New York to help out. I couldn't help but notice that of all the things he included in the poster, he left out the comfort and all of those folks from the military who came to help New Yorkers. Do you think that's an oversight or just stupidity?
Yeah, listen, if you wanted to instill pride and positive memories of what maybe there were some aspects of what we just went through that brings back the most positive emotions or painful but important to remember memories, it's going to be images like the comfort. I want to see our great men and women, our frontline workers, our truck drivers, our farmers, our law enforcement workers, of course, all of our healthcare workers. We should be celebrating them. We should be honoring all the people who lost their lives. And I don't think that this should be the image that gets handed down from one generation to the next of the memory from COVID.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that you could have done this in a much different way and make people felt part of the problem instead of trying to pick winners and losers, which he did. Speaking of winners and losers, another loser right now is Mayor Bill de Blasio. I know you've called on him to resign. I'm not sure that he's going to take your advice on this, but doesn't he deserve a lot of the blame as well?
Yeah, I think Mayor de Blasio should be removed. I also don't believe that he should resign. I don't believe New York City is going to be able to survive the remainder of his term. There is, and I call it a tale of two cities. There's two directions the city can go. It's the direction we're seeing right now, which is a path of lawlessness. You don't have the back of your NYPD. You're seeing a rise in poverty, or you could go in this other path, which is all about peace and prosperity, safety and security, law and order. I think that Mayor de Blasio owns so much of what's been going wrong these last few months on the law and order side, but it also goes back to the beginning of the timeline and the rhetoric and the policies at the start of this outbreak contributing to the spread.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's amazing. I know the people of Long Island are probably happy to have someone like you out there leading, because it seems like between the governor and the mayor that it's been, an absolute disaster. So thank you for coming back on. Thanks for your service to New York and trying to keep people focused on what we really need to be focused on during this COVID outbreak.
You got it. Thank you, Sean.
You bet. All right, yesterday at a press conference, the president highlighted the single biggest difference between him and Democrats during this meeting. Jose Fuentes, who's the former Attorney General of Puerto Rico, is going to be here to break it all down. Then another New York Times writer has called it quits because of a lack of openness and diversity. No kidding. And later, we're going to take a look at how the media's reporting of COVID-19 has become reckless. The president of the Media Research Center, Brett Bozell himself, is here to break it down.